Everybody to Forever Bristol City podcast. We're recording this on a very dark and dank Sunday morning and dark cloud over Ashton Gate yesterday because the final score, it finished City 0, Millwall 1. Goodness me, I do hate that team. They're not very nice. Their fans and even their manager, Alex Neil. We're not going to talk about the obvious until the end of the podcast. I'm delighted today to be joined by Neil, who's been away for a few weeks, but he's back in the fold, and Dave Tovey and Mark Tovey. Guys, again, same old FBC podcast. I'm going to ask you that early question. You first, Dave. What were your thoughts at 5-5 on the final whistle?
I mean, I thought they played pretty well yesterday. First half time, I was pretty content. I felt we did enough to equalise, but there is just a failure to put the ball in the back of the net. When you need options coming off the bench to try and change the it's not your day feeling, it's just not there. But coulda, woulda, shoulda are the last foolish words. And ultimately, Millwall achieved what they set out to do, and that was a 1-0 away win. It was a really frustrating day overall, but I don't think it was typical Bristol City because they didn't play poorly yesterday, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Interesting point. Mark, your thoughts. You're always a cup half full sort of guy, and Dave's being a bit like that as well, to be fair.
It was more of a smash and grab from Millwall. I expected a bit more of them in open play, but it's really a team that dropped deep, defended well, and tried grinders into submission, and then opened out a little in the second half. I mean, so frustrating, City's inability to put the ball in the back of net in good situations. Both from the left and right flanks, but maybe from the left flank with Borges and Mehmeti, and the lack of mobility from our main striker Emil Rees, and then a little bit from Sinclair Armstrong, but never enough to get a win. A draw was fully deserved, but the stench of defeat means that we got a tough game coming up on Wednesday against Leicester before we travel to
Neil. Yeah, game up there. Well, the next two are very difficult, aren't they? Neil, Tom from Robin's Nest, he said on the text feed, play like that and we win most games, rings true. But he's worried unless you do January business. I mean, we did play well. I tweeted at half time. It was some of the best football that we've played. It was front foot without really testing the keeper.
Well, you're over in the lower Lansdale, I'm over in the Dolmen, so obviously we're not together during the game. But I messaged you during the game and that. Yeah. With regards to it. And what did we say?
Well, no end product.
And we said it's going to be a 1-0 game, and whoever scores that first goal will go on to win the actual game. And that was how it played out. Basically, yesterday, for all our nice play in the first third, the second third, we didn't have a cutting edge in the third. And Millwall set up to go for that 0-0 and to hit us on the break. And I thought it was going to come from a set piece, like a corner or a free kick, given that they are a team of giants in relation to it. But they set up and they pressed us. But they sat back. They allowed us to play that first two.
Well, we had 67% possession.
We did play some nice movement, nice interchangeable play, and
because
all the
they
rest
let
of
us.
I think partly because they let us, but also there was some really nice. We found the gaps between it on transition, the way we regained the ball from them. I thought the ref, regardless of the views later on, I thought he was very favourable to us first half. He let a lot of fouls on Millwall go, and actually, you could tell that the Millwall fans and players were getting wound up by the ref's performance for us in the first half. But we had no cutting edge at the end.
Interesting point you make about the referee, because you talk about players and games being a game of 2 hours. The referee had a game of 2 hours because in the first half, he seemed to be giving us everything. I mean, literally, the Millwall fans were getting really riled about it, as absolutely. We would have done if some of the stuff, he was letting it go. But in the second half, there was a few 50-50 balls. He seemed as though he evened itself out. And obviously, we're going to talk about what happened at the end, the other thing that happened at the end of the game. Dave, the lineup, we keep saying it sort of picks itself. Allegedly, it was a strong bench, but I'd hardly call it strong. It's strong by reputation, but not by actually doing it on the pitch. When you're bringing back Harry Cornick into the lineup and Armstrong and Mayula. You've got three strikers there. We only play with one. If you're only going to use one of those strikers, I'm a big advocate of this, of having a youngster on the bench just to get the experience of match day. And if you go 3-0 up, you can give the youngster 10 minutes in a game like that. But were you happy with the lineup that Gerhard started with yesterday?
I mean, first of all, it's worth acknowledging that the communication has earned a bit of trust. We were told in Portsmouth that Knight was being rested, easing him back in, ready for the next game. And yesterday he started.
Yeah.
So now you can kind of take it a bit more face value. And to be honest with you, I was happy with the lineup. McCrory, I felt like shouldn't have started yesterday. So seeing the lineup as it was, I was perfectly pleased with how we started, how we lined up yesterday.
Yeah, Mark, any issues from your side? I mean, Knight did start. I have to say that Adam Randall is more Jason Knight than Jason Knight. I was saying that before Jason got injured, but I thought we'd talk about individual player performances later. But you were happy with the lineup, I imagine, yeah?
Yeah, so that's probably our strongest side when that's fit right now. And Jason Knight's got his players way back in because he's missed so many games, and he was pretty decent yesterday, and probably taken off to manage his fitness, and opened us out to be more attacking and put an extra forward on. But yeah, I was quite happy with that. We're quite limited, aren't we? Like you said, the players and reputation in naming, but not in deed, really. Some of the players on the bench.
Neil, I commented on 3 strikers on the bench, and as Dave said, credit to the club. They're talking correctly, saying Knight was rested last week, and he did come back in. But there's 3 strikers on the bench when we only play with 1. And am I naive or just stupid saying put a youngster on the bench rather than name those 3?
Well, there's some strange things going on with youngsters at the moment at the club. I have to say, the overwhelming feeling I had, Skinner and Bakova. Bakova is on the bench. He's got game time. He's not even in the under-21s at the moment. He dropped Bakova. The club has dropped Bakova and Skinner back into the under-18 side, in relation to it. So you've recalled Skinner from Eastleigh, where he's having a loan and potentially doing quite well. And you're playing him in the under-18s. You're not even playing him in the under-21s. I don't get that.
I would.
Pakova again is sort of, is he on the bench? Brings back Cornick. Cornick sitting on the bench. Is Cornick ever going to come on?
Why? Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So I can see the thing of the youngster on the bench. Ollie Thomas not on the bench anymore. A little bit, yeah.
Where does Meerholz play?
Meerholz, well, he's a centre midfielder, but he was on loan at Aldershot playing as a left centre back. So it's kind of
him?
He's mid. Well, he's
why him?
Well, it's the only midfielder we've got in the under-21s really that is on the cusp. But you wouldn't say he's on loan at Aldershot. They're hardly pulling up any trees in the conference, and you brought him back to sit on the bench, and he's probably like thinking, well, why have I been recalled?
You talk about youngsters midfield. Is that where Billy Phillips plays?
He's more of a 10. Like Ruben Shepherd.
Keep hearing about these 10s and the mystique of a 10. Dave, sorry, carry on.
I know it's not to do with the lineup as such, but I would love to know the thought process with Skinner. You change him from Western to Eastleigh, and it makes sense. It's a step up. He seems to be doing okay there. He's scoring goals. Their fans are pretty happy with him. You recall him early, like not even for January, to go to a league club. To do what? And you might want to take a look at him, but you can actually go to games and scout how he's playing. It doesn't make sense in his development to take him back to the under-18s and be in-house. Now, if you're going to put him on the bench and give him game time, okay, you're taking a risk. Bravo. But to do what you're doing at the moment, I would love to know the thought process, because even if they say in January we're looking for a league club, it still doesn't make sense to recall him that early. So there are real questions to be asked there.
And when they're in the conference, Dave, they can come back and play under-21 games. So it's not as if you can't bring him back in-house to actually playing under-21s or under-18 games. He doesn't need to be at Bristol City to actually play under-21s and under-18 games on loan in the conference.
I got a comment.
It's level 5 of the pyramid as well. So, that's a good league. It's a good competitive league. I don't know if all of the teams professional now in the National League. It used to be that most or all of them had turned professional from semi-professional. That's a good division to be in. Why bring him back? You know, bet him in at a National League club and get him scoring some goals. I just don't see it. I just do not understand it whatsoever.
I got a comment on the text here. Alan G, could have put Cornish on last 10 minutes. This isn't Forever B&Q podcast. Isn't that Cornish something you put around the top of your ceiling? And Darm said, you, superb finisher. Not seen enough of that to give him that accolade. That's coming up on the text feed. But there we go. Dave, the only thing that I commented on the first half, how good it was fluent football. But the only note I've got was Borges late on in the first half setting up Mehmeti, and it was a mishit cross from him, but went just past the post. But was there anything else of note in the first half that you can recall?
Well, the first thing I would say is you made a comment earlier that we play where Millwall let us play. I don't agree with that at all. We were breaking through lines. We were attacking them in where they didn't want to be attacked. But Millwall had fundamentally set up to keep their players back. So even if we did play through the lines, we had another set of lines to go through. They were not going to get done on the transition. Their fullbacks were staying home all the time. They didn't come to dance yesterday. And that's why it was hard work. But there were opportunities. And I'll give you an example of something. There was one moment where a cross went in towards the back post. I think it was from Borges. And Reece assumes that their defender's going to get there, and he doesn't. And because of that, he doesn't take the opportunity. There was another moment with Anis when Twine is making a run for him, and he tries to pivot the other side and lets the ball go. There weren't clear-cut opportunities, but there was a lot happening to make you feel like if you keep playing like this, a goal will come. If you make better decisions in the final third, something will come of it. I generally felt we were wasteful with good opportunities without creating chances in the first half. And I was content with that at halftime. It doesn't
I was really, really, and I took a guest to the game yesterday, and he's a football aficionado. He watches a lot of international stuff on telly, admittedly from afar, but he said it was a really good game of football, and I think it was only his first or second visit since post-Manning. He really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first half as well. And at one stage, even though you say we did break their lines, they seemed to be in a little bit of disarray, but we weren't able to. We didn't even test the goalie in the first half, Mark, did we?
There was,
sorry,
just to say one more thing. Sorry, Mark. There was an example in the 16th minute with Twine. He actually gets in behind, but he hasn't got the pace to drive further. And he can't. And Anis is there for a first-time pass. But because you haven't got the pace, their defender manages to cover and actually defends it quite well.
I'll be honest, Dave. Sorry, Mark, before you come in, I did ask you the question. But, Dave, I'll be honest, if that's the incident I'm thinking about, that's where I think Twine was looking more for the penalty, because that's when he did break through that line, and he went down, and the chance came to nothing. Is that the one that you're talking about?
No, a different one. And that's what I mean. There were moments and there were opportunities within the game.
Yeah. Mark, your take on that opening 45?
Frustrating, because I think Millwall's back four just sat in. They did allow us to. They allowed us to have the ball in our half and play the ball forward, but they contained us very well. So when we players were coming off the line in Mehmeti and Borges trying to pull their defence around, and to some extent it works. Trying playing some blind passes behind, which were we were more missed than hit. So we tried to play behind them, but we just didn't do it enough. I think one of the best chances was when Reece actually had the ball down on the left side of the 6-yard box, and it was like he had 5 minutes to put the ball across and eventually wasted it. I don't know if you remember that opportunity.
Well, I remember Reece just being the nearly man most of the time. I know he scored against Swansea the other week, but for me, he's looking as leaden-footed as Chris Martin did in his final season.
Well, he looks like he's carrying an injury to me.
Well, he shouldn't be playing there. Why are we playing a player carrying an injury and naming 3 strikers on the bench?
Because I think he's still the best striker that we've got, even at 60-70%, which is an indictment of our striking options. But I think with it yesterday, what struck me is our reluctance to shoot. And this, we're trying to work away, and they're sitting back. What's going to encourage them to come out? What's going to encourage them to come out is if you get into that final third and you have some shots, then they're going to start thinking to themselves, right, he's advancing, right, I need to actually sort of the worst one was that the yellow card on Knight as he was running straight through the middle, and where he grabbed him. Normally the ref would give it where he's pulled down, but he actually pulled it all the way back to where the contact first started happening, and that was a good 15 yards, and 15 yards further forward, because even though it's like 35, 40 yards, Twine still had a go, didn't he?
Yeah.
And a free kick. But that should have been about 15 yards. But that was possibly one of the more cynical fouls that I've seen of the season so far, that pullback. But in those situations, as you're advancing, if they're backing off, you've got to shoot. You've got to shoot in that situation, because eventually you're just getting to the edge of the area. And then we were looking to do interpasses. We were looking to do it. And it's a really condensed. I mean, Crammer, their right back, I really like him. He was obviously on loan at the Gas, but I won't hold that against him. But he was great at Exeter, and then he came back, and then Millwall bought him. But he bombs up and down that wing normally, and he scored a late goal against Southampton in their last game. Yesterday he was subdued. He was at the back the whole time. He was not up and down that wing, and they just played a solid, as the others have said, that solid back four. They weren't adventurous at all. They just allowed, that solid line, and we weren't going to play through that line.
No,
but that first half we tried to play through the line the whole time, and it just wasn't going to happen. There was a couple of nice balls by Anis over the top for Sykes, and some really sort of nice things. But for me, as the game wore on, Anis got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and then he was picking up the ball in his own half and then looking to do it. And you're thinking, no, you want him on the edge of the box. You want the balls going into Anis, not Anis looking to Anis in his own half. If you were Millwall, you'd be like, great, Mehmet is 50 yards further south.
Yeah, and I alluded to that chance that Twine had, not the chance, when he went down in the box. Do you think he was looking for a pen then, or ran out of steam?
Probably a bit of both, actually.
Yeah. His reputation goes before. We had a few shouts for pens yesterday, but we ain't going to get one. It's just getting a joke at the moment.
Yeah,
and that shot of Mehmet's, though, the one that went wide, that was the closest we came in terms of real chances, and it wasn't really a shot, was it? I thought it was a limp cross that came off the end of his foot at the end of the half. But there we go. There we go. Second half, then. Half time 0-0. Everybody's happy, and except some people are thinking, well, we're going to win this, and then realists are saying, Millwall going to sneak this 1-0, or it's going to be 0-0. Or something like that. And it is fine margins at the top of the Championship. I mean, I'm going to say these statistics now, nobody's enjoying really good form at the moment, massive form. Millwall, obviously, if we'd have won yesterday, we'd have been in third. I think I'm right in saying that. But Millwall their last five, look at the last 5 games. Millwall, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. Ipswich, they're coming on strong, as are Southampton, by the way. Ipswich, 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat. Then you look at Preston, 1 win, 3 draws, 1 defeat. Stoke, 1 win, no draws, 4 defeats, and we're 2-1-2. We've only won 2 out of the last 7. Let's not get away from that. Yeah, we'd have won 3 out of 7, which isn't great. That's sort of bang average. We'd be up there in third. That's how close this division is. Into the second half, not a great deal to talk about before their goal. Anis was getting some pelters on the media platforms yesterday, saying he lost the ball, and clearly Borges was out of position. Viner, I don't know where he was. Somebody put on the text feed. Not his best game either yesterday, but take us through the goal, Dave, as you saw it.
So the first thing in the Anis situation, when he does get the ball and loses it, he is our most advanced player. Should you be conceding a goal so easily when your most advanced player loses the ball? In my opinion, you should not. However, there is a tactical thing in play that we as fans have to acknowledge. We have enjoyed the transition monsters and the fact that our players just run and ask questions later. Yesterday was a case of bluff and counter bluff, because when Anis gets it, he tries to shield it. And in my opinion, he doesn't do a good enough job of holding up the ball, first of all, or he could pass it quicker. He daddies a bit and gives it away. But Borges is already gone. If Anis does a better job, Borges has an opportunity to be in. And their midfielder or attacker, Aziz, I believe, counter bluffs. And he says, okay, you can go. I'm going to sit here. And if we win the ball, I'm in. And that's exactly what happens. So some of it is on a structural error based on the tactics. Some of it comes down to what Struber's asking the players to do. He's asking them to run. And we've enjoyed the reward of this season. And yesterday was the risk element, because there's just no way that Anna should lose the ball and you're under that kind of pressure. But ultimately, I want to see them keep doing that. I want to see Borges going. From there, I've seen question marks over Vitek and the first save, and should he do better? If you are being uber critical, it would be nice if he parries it out for a corner. However, that was not some tame effort. That was hit hard at him. And he saved 2 opportunities, and it would be nice to get a bit of defensive help. But I just felt like the goal overall yesterday, some of it is on Struber, but ultimately I want to see us playing like that. And sometimes you're going to concede goals like that if you're looking to be hyper aggressive in the transition.
Mark, your take on the goal and Dave's comments as well, for that matter.
He's exactly right. And the trouble is with when you're playing with a back three and wing backs, if your wing backs are too advanced, if you lose the ball, there's an opportunity to have a huge space in behind, and that's what happened. And that's how Aziz gets fed. And he's in behind, gets the opportunity to take 2 shots before the ball's played across for Mihalovic to sweep it in at the far post. It's smash and grab, but it's the same old thing. When you leave your back three exposed like that, there's so much space in behind for Aziz to run into. We don't close down. The keeper makes a decent save. I thought about that. I think the ball's hit so hard at him, he can't do anything but parry the ball back. I think he makes a double-handed save, doesn't he, to push the ball out. And he makes a good reaction save from the second one, but he can't save the third one. But you think that some defender may be back in the picture to try and at least just dive in and try and stop the ball going in, but we don't. Millwall just follow the ball up, and it's a good counter-attacking goal. Just one of those. It's a sickener, really, and it's the story that Neil was saying at the top of the show. Team gets in front, and then it's so hard to recover after going 1-0 down.
Yeah, lots of things to talk about here. Before you speak, Neil, I just want to pick up on a couple of points. I think it was Steve Taylor's. He's pinned that on Vitek. Michael Thresher has got a valid point here. Wide open specialists need explaining, not a clue how that happened. Gets back to what you were saying there, Dave, about percentages and what have you. I had a former player phone me up this week who we speak to occasionally, not Gary. And he said the way we play with this bombing forward, like you both said Borges was doing, there's no real accountability. And when it goes wrong, when it goes right, it's great. When it goes wrong, you can see goals like that. And is this going to be a factor this season that we are seeing a more entertaining style of football? Of that, there is no doubt. But if you look at it with 19 games played, 8 wins, 5 draws, 6 defeats, that's very upper mid-table and reflective maybe of some we win, some we lose. If it was more like 9 wins, 10 wins, 2 draws and 7 defeats, because draws aren't going to be featuring quite as strongly as they have done in years gone by.
Ultimately, David, you can only be transition monsters if you preach it. If you remember the first game of the season at Sheffield United, we considered a similar goal because Randall had the ball and you were just gone instantly. Yeah. We are going to concede like that. The question for me is, when he's going, why is there not anybody anticipating, maybe moving over? There's just far too much space over there. And ultimately, if you feel like yesterday, I don't like the fact that Borges is gone, then you don't want to see transition monsters. If you accept the fact that's going to happen. Be careful
to use a phrase that some people use on a different subject. Be careful what you wish for. Neil, your take on the goal and the points that the other guys and I've made.
Borges, I do wonder whether Pring's going to start coming back into the equation there, because what Borges has been okay, decent assist at Portsmouth last week for Anis, but he's not the quickest, and he's certainly not the quickest on transition. And he's not quick at getting back. And we play a bit of a game in the Dolman sometimes of, rather than where's Wally, it's where's Borges. Because he can be sometimes 40 yards up in a completely different position and they're attacking down their right-hand side, and you're like,
Where is
he? And you look, and he's 30 yards further forward. He's almost sometimes our most advanced player. And I think with him, because he hasn't got that pace, he goes early. He goes early into situations, whereas somebody with a bit more pace may hand back and then have that 5-10 yard acceleration. But he gambles in that situation, and he gambles. But then behind him, who's behind
Well,
him?
that's what I was going to say. Because that's so. Where was Viner yesterday? Playing out of position again on the left.
Viner on the left is not the player that Viner in the centre or Viner on the right is.
Yeah.
That's an unfamiliar position for him. Well, unfamiliar, yeah, he's been asked to play it a lot last season under Manning as well. But he doesn't read it across there.
No.
So there's all a bit, as Dave says, and he's come deep. They've put the press on him. They've played the percentage, because if you look at when he breaks, Aziz, they've got 3 or 4 players forward.
Yeah.
Now, normally they wouldn't, but they're chancing it there. When they put that press on, and they steal the ball, then they go. And I was left with the feeling that's something they've practiced. That's something they've looked on back, and they've done their homework and know that if you press there and they lose, the fullbacks are going to be far forward, and you can exploit that, because in the box, when Aviz, the double save, it's not Ivanovic who tucks it in. It's Bangura Williams who
taps it back.
Who taps it back to him. So they've got the number 10 and Ivanovic in the box already when the shot comes in.
He's got clear.
If that was us, they'd be like about 10 yards further back or whatever. But they've gambled as a team there to put that press on, to win that ball, knowing that our fullbacks will be so far forward, and knowing that Borges is always going to need an extra sort of 5 or 10 yards. So they just did their homework on us.
I think that's really well put. Exactly. Bluff and counter bluff.
And Alex Neil, well, all three of it, Alex Neil and Gary Rowett. I mean, they are all good. I use Gary Rowett, who's struggling with Oxford at the moment, but Gary Neil, Alex Rowett, they're the sort of managers that are savvy at this level, Dave, aren't they? Yeah, they know. They do their homework from that perspective. I know Stoke got hammered the other day as well, got beat. But, these blokes know how to play, don't they? How to set their sides up.
I mean, at times it can be extremely ugly and unpleasant. There's some of it that you wish your own team would do, the very, very dark arts of slowing the game down, etc. And in moments like that, you can say, yeah, the homework was done. Everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. And we aren't the only teams with plans. The way I think Neil actually described it excellently, something they've worked on very much so. It's like, well, you can gamble, but we can gamble too. I'm not a fan of the way he sets his teams up to play football in general. It's not something I would want to watch every week, but you can't knock its effectiveness. And it's up to you as a team to counter it. And I felt we were close yesterday. I don't think we deserved to lose yesterday. I really don't. But ultimately, he set his team up in a certain way and they performed to it and they did exactly what they intended. Don't give anything easy away. And if the chance comes, take it. And boy, did they do that.
Yeah. Mark, substitutions, first pairing on the 64th minute. Not quite the same regularity that young Liam used to do, but Knight and Sykes going off, McCrory and Armstrong coming on. The right subs, yes, I guess giving Knight a chance to recover for Wednesday.
Yeah, a little bit surprising going with 2 forwards, but it's clearly needed to get back into the game, managing Knight's minutes, worry about McCrory's ability to get down the right, and attacking wise, he seemed to have gone backwards. Defensively, okay, although there were times I think he mistimed an approach to the ball yesterday and slipped over right at the end where he could have run down the wing. So I think Knight, McCrory is going backwards in terms of his ability. He should be a player who's looking at Scotland's World Cup squad. In the States next year.
I got more chance of going.
I can't see him getting there with his performances at the moment. So worried about his ability as an attacking force, just not there. Always looking to come inside, not hitting the accelerators going down the right. So I think we went backwards a little bit when Sykes was taken off.
Yeah, Sykes was
uh,
reasonable.
He was reasonable. Had a shot blocked. Gave us some options down the right. Yeah, McCrory. Yeah,
He just blunders his way. Look, I've got the ick with McCrory at the moment. As people who listen every week will see that he's just not doing it for me, and he wasn't a cheap signing either. Neil, substitutions and what have you?
Given Knight a rest when he's probably looking at a four game suspension after yesterday is panned out, hasn't it? But I think with yesterday we kind of lost a little bit of that drive when he went off. I understood it because you're just managing the minutes. I'd like to have seen Pring on a bit earlier. Because
Stokes is allegedly on the grass again as well, isn't he?
Yeah, and Bird is as well.
Bird, what's that?
But I think with Pring, I know he's been out 4 or 5 months, but 5-10 minutes, I don't know. Why not play him in another 21 game? If you're worried about,
why not play?
If he needs minutes or whatever like that, like we've spoken about in the past, the lack of reserves, the lack of nowadays that ability to give people minutes on the pitch. But Pring came on and he was playing him in at number 10. They were playing a weird positions at times.
I think
Pring
I
was
have
on
to
the
say,
edge of
I
the
think
box,
come
and
the
it was
end of the game, it's sort of
yeah.
like
Oh,
it's
it
like
turned
when
into it.
Nigel Pearson was here. He used to have about 6 forwards on. He still couldn't
And we saw
score.
Vitek up for a corner.
Did we?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, at the start of injury time.
I said
no,
we'd go on
David.
the
He actually went early in injury time. He went up in the 92nd minute, didn't he?
Did he?
I'm
going to come to Dave next. Somebody's put on here, I think it's Ken Goodman. He said, anyone know Alex Neil win percentage against City? I don't know that. Neil's going to look that up. What I do know, because somebody said it, I think it was on Radio Bristol yesterday, that we've played Millwall now more times than any other club in the Football League. Yeah, I think that was match day 109 against them. Dave, before we talk about the very end of the game, I looked at the highlights and Dickey had a shot off the line. McCrory lunged at one that if he'd have connected, it would have gone in. Borges was right up there, couldn't see the goal line, even though he was only 2 feet away. All of those chances. And then we have Millwall almost with the chance of the second shooting over. One of those goes in on another day, doesn't it? The Dickey and McCrory lunge and Borges, he's more aware to where the ball is. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Absolutely. On another day, we're good value for a goal in that second half. Things were created. The one with Dickey, it's like, yeah, it's a block, but the defender doesn't know. It's desperation at the times, and you're thinking, just finish that. There's a long throw with Borges, and it's like, just be more instinctive. The referee then gives a foul, which I don't really understand what Armstrong did wrong. The player just falls on the ball and uses his hands. There's the McCrory save at the end. Enough was done to get an equaliser. But just to take you back to the point, Ari, the subs, I agree with you on McCrory. He's not in his best form right now. We're essentially bringing him on and asking him to do something he's not producing. Where were the changes yesterday? The number 10 role can be in and out. You expect your number 10s not to be on it every day. Who's replacing Twine and Anis? Who's going to come on and offer something more? And do you know what was a real difference maker yesterday in terms of the energy? Armstrong's run. That one run that literally gets the crowd up, gets people on their feet. But who else is doing that? Who else can come off of the bench? And I'm not convinced, because none of those positions are his best position. Ultimately, maybe it's a formation change. But I think sometimes it comes down to the fact that we have a real lack of options on the bench to really change things. And we're essentially saying, we're going to do a like-for-like sub or bring Pring on. But they're the wing-back positions. And they need to add something, but you need someone for your number 10s, or you need another striker role. Armstrong's been okay recently, but he's not really showing that goals are going to come.
There's no creativity. Look, yesterday in the second half, in front of Dolman, from the lower Lansdowne, it still looks dark over there. You can't see what's going on half the time. And yesterday, our playmakers, because you have to say Twine and Mehmeti, are the playmakers, they were anonymous in the second half. To me, they added very, very little, even though we had that smattering of chances. But you're right, Dave, there's nothing to come on off the bench into the midfield to give that creativity.
I gave Anis the big up last week, to say that we don't appreciate him enough and how His stats show how much he's delivering. But he also plays in a position where you're not going to be on it every single game. And yesterday it was just screaming out for either an attacking midfielder or a striker, somebody to come on.
He could have brought you on. He brought you on 85 minutes, and he could have done a triple substitution and brought you on. I mean, I thought Sykes was playing quite well yesterday, so you could have come in place of Twine or Mehmeti.
Where are we on chances? Sorry, I was trying to find out the Alex
Neil win percentage.
The miss of the game yesterday. Have we spoken about that?
Which one was that?
Borges.
Oh, I touched it. Yeah, he was. Well, Jesus. He was almost over the ball. Mark, I mean, you have a shout.
I missed that. What happened
with Borges? The long throw. He missed
the long throw in front of goal. Yeah,
long throw in front of goal.
He was stood.
3 yards out.
He would let. Yeah.
Was that so? He was on the He was on the Dolman side of the pitch, wasn't he?
No, he was on. He was right in the.
He was in the goal. He was
right in the centre.
He was 3 yards from the line and probably 3.
And then he missed it, and that's the one that Dave was saying about the player fell on the ball afterwards because Armstrong didn't get in. But that initial miss, he's by himself, open goal, 3 yards out, and he goes to hit it with his right foot and mishits it because he's left-footed. And it's like, oh my word, you're not going to get that many chances because up beforehand, it was a Dickey long throw, and I thought, oh God, when you take potentially your best header of the ball.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do now. Then
he's the one.
That's what we're doing. We did that last week.
He's the one taking the long throws, and you're like, well, nothing's going to come of this. And it went flat across. And Borges, 3 yards out. Oh, I'm still.
That was the moment for me.
I'm getting
just
PTSD just thinking about it.
This is not going to be our day today, and
no,
it's something I don't think we have any options from the bench that I consider real game changers. If they go with the side. It's perfectly pleasant enough. And against Wrexham, I thought he was our best player. But I'm not convinced that he is the long-term answer to playing in that position. And in that respect, January or Stokes and Bird can't come soon enough because we desperately need those options because days like yesterday, it shows.
Yeah. Mark, who was it for them that had that shot over that really should have made it 2-0? Was that Bangura? Williams?
Yeah, I think so. Advances down the left-hand side, and all he's got to do is keep the ball below the bar, and he hits it straight over the bar with Vitek beaten. Yeah, it's a poor miss, really, and that would have.
And I'll stick with you, Mark.
Sealed the game.
Well. I'll stick with you, Mark, because and Dave alluded to this chance as well when the ball was cleared. That goes in on another day, doesn't it? When McCrory shoots it from outside the box, and that's going in, but the keeper Crocombe, he gets a strong hand to that to touch it.
Yeah, because he sees it through a crowd of players and gets down late, saves it with his right hand. It's a very good save to push it out for a corner, but then we get another corner and we can't put it in the back of the net. Yeah. I think was that the one that Vitek came up for on the 92nd minute.
It was in the 92nd. I mean, I was walking up Ashton Road or up towards where I was out of the ground. I left on the 94th minute. So I didn't see the disallowed goal. I heard the cheer, but Neil, you saw it. Take us through it. I've seen it, looked at it, replayed several times. It looks a bit harsh, the offside.
I think
converted by Viner in it.
I think, looking back on it, I think what the linesman is guilty of potentially is a bit of ball watching. 94 minutes, the linesman, they're tired, all the rest of it. And I'm not excusing it, but when you have those long balls, what are you actually watching? Are you watching the player kicking the ball, or are you watching along the line? Well, you should be watching along the line, but I think he's distracted by watching the ball. So then he sees the kick and he's watching the ball, and by the time the ball gets there
to McCrory's head,
McCrory's in an offside position. So you've gone, well,
but when the ball is played, he isn't.
He's onside.
Yeah. So he should be watching the ball. He should be saying, "Where's the action? It's over there."
Yeah.
Oh, right. He almost needs to have.
But then I remember in the Millwall game last year when the penalty where it hits Tanner's chest. And he thinks it's a hand, and it gets them back into the game at 2-2, doesn't it? And then they go 3-2, and then we have a very unmanning finish to the game. But I think ultimately they're only human. And in that sort of situation where he's seen so much happening, it's right at the end of the game, it's a fine margin offside. He's called it. Some of those are going to go for you. Some of them are not going to go for you. But I mean, turning around, Struber turning around and saying the ref wasn't brave enough to overturn the linesman. I mean, what ref is going to overturn a linesman?
Well, he's not going to overturn the linesman.
If
Not when he's nowhere near the ball.
It's offside. It's offside.
Yeah.
The challenge.
Referee will overturn a throw. You see it happen many times, yeah. Because sometimes the linesman, are frightened to, or what way shall I give it? And then they give it, and the referee can overrule it.
I think what happened then afterwards goes to what's happened, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I think both benches have got those screens in front of them, and in that moment we could see that it was onside, so we stopped feeling aggrieved. Millwall saw that it was onside and they've got away with one, so they're like happy. We're looking across at them, they're looking across at us, probably giving us a thumbs up, whatever. That happens in local football every day of the week. And then unfortunately that's right at the end of the game, and then that transpires into what happened thereafter.
All right, Dave, the disallowed goal, your view on it from the screen over in Germany.
It's a guess. The linesman is guessing, and the reason he's guessing is because one of their fullback or defender is actually well behind their line, and he realizes it. Oh my goodness, I'm too deep here, and he's trying to come out. And when the ball is kicked, McCrory's clearly onside. It's close, but it's not debatable. But in the time it takes the linesman to go from ball's hit to here, that little flick, you've got the passing of the two players, and he's guessing. His guess is, now he looks offside, so he was probably offside there. But it's a poor decision because it's simply not offside. And it's really, really frustrating. And it feels like decisions like that aren't going our way at the moment. The one against Wrexham, some people think it was the correct decision. I really, really don't. Yesterday, having won, supposedly these things even themselves out over a season. Right now, it doesn't feel like it.
No, we should keep a tally of things that we got away with and things that we didn't, or where we were hard done by, or whatever. Mark, harsh decision, to me, and I totally agree with Neil that the referee's ineptitude there instigated what kicked off, which we're going to go on to in a second.
He's ineptitude. He's never going to overrule the lines.
Well, somebody on here said years, right?
Oh dear!
We've
lost
Dave.
them.
Our picture.
Yeah, we can hear them.
Here we go.
And beautiful Panavision.
Yeah, back in the room. There we go. Where are we? Well, we're back to the Battle of Ashton Gate. I watched it. I've only seen it on the TV because I was walking away. I knew some of it was kicking off there. And I was far enough away from the ground that I could still hear when the referee blew the final whistle. So it's not like I missed loads. But I've watched it a couple of times now on replay. And the best little piece of action is what happens before it all kicks off. Because Neil goes over to shake Struber's hand rather than Struber shaking Neil's hand, right? And it might have been one of those where he went, ha, ha, ha. And Struber almost... Does he pull away? I don't know. But then in piles Jason Knight, who feels that Neil might have said something. This is Alex Neil, not you, Neil. Said something to Struber. But that was, and then it all kicks off, and it's a melee. Even Joe Williams is in there. Somebody said throwing.
Yeah,
and Harry Cornick was there as well. He should have been on the pitch for his long throws. Dave, you saw it like me on screen, and I'm sure you watched it a few times. We're on Sky. We talk about we never get publicity on television, on the goal highlights, or on the main bloody Sky News after the test match today.
The reasoning behind it is it's not obvious to me. The only thing that matters to me is the fact that it's one in and all in. It's not people standing and looking. It's one guy's in, something's happening here, we're all in, we'll ask questions later. And in terms of club unity, togetherness, and taking something positive from it, that's what you want. Obviously, it's not what you want to see on a football pitch, but yeah, one in, all in, and that's all I can really say on it.
That's what Struber said on his Radio Bristol interview. Radio Bristol was saying, I don't know if it was Richard Hoskins on there or Ed Hadwin, that none of the players weren't going to come on in case they talked themselves into trouble. But Struber was alluding to the fact that some words were when City contested the offside decision vocally, there were some words said by the Preston crew. By the Millwall bench, and that was why there were problems. And Struber was talking about the positives of seeing that togetherness. I think he was talking about that as well. And I think that flummoxed Hoskins had win, because he said, "But is that really what you wanted to see?" The adrenaline's right up, isn't it? There is that togetherness. The adrenaline's right up, and you always see that it's one in, all in, and it just looks completely stupid. And the FA will review it, and somebody will get a ban. City and Millwall will receive a big fine, especially as it's brought the game into disrepute, because it's all over national news and TV and newspapers are covering it. That's not what we want to see. And if somebody is guilty of pushing over a player or manager, they're likely to get a retrospective ban. And if it's Jason Knight, then we got problems, haven't we? That's absolute stupidity. There's no justification for it. What's going on? Just shake hands and get down the tunnel and sort it out. Sort it out there. Take your frustration out on your kit bag or whatever. But don't do that. It's just
send me a bit of a clip.
So I think Struber and Neil have gone over to one another to sort of shake it, but he's angry. They're angry about the offside. The offside goal, the disallowed goal, happened at the wrong time. 5 minutes later, things would have calmed down. It was right at the end of the game, and you could tell that as they're coming together. Anyway, Neil pushes Struber away, and then Knight takes exception to that. Knight goes straight in for Neil. I mean, Knight, for me, because the ref didn't give any yellows or reds, he's looking at a 3-4 game ban straight off.
So he's going to miss Christmas, baby.
Oh, you mean he didn't give a yellows and reds during that incident?
Yeah.
Can you give yellows and reds?
The FA will step in on it. Nobody got anything, Mark. So the FA will step in on it, and they will be analysing it today, and there'll be a load of people, because all of the benches entered. So it'll be all the assistant coaches and all of this, and touchline bans and all of the rest of it. But some of our
Struber did nothing. Struber did nothing wrong.
No, but I think he probably would have got a yellow or a red card.
For what?
Watch the footage afterwards. But with regards to it, but yesterday we lost it because it's a sense of injustice. And it just, before the show, I was talking about Swindon back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2014 season with Wade Elliott. When they we won the league in November type thing, and they were in our face and all the rest of it. The thing is, with Millwall, we play them again this month, don't we?
We play them again.
So that game is
3 weeks tomorrow.
The thing is behind it. If you look at the one player that you would expect to be worried from that, who you would necessarily say was the instigator, it would be Jason Knight. However, if he's walking over and he feels like his manager has been disrespected, well done to him. Sometimes you have to take the punishment, because you have to stand your ground. And
no, I'm sorry, you can't take the punishment. He's our
No, but you can't just see Jason Knight and say, "I've just seen something happen to my manager that I do not like."
You've got to hold your tongue. Where's the discipline?
That is discipline. You're all in. Everyone's together. That is discipline.
It's not a boxing match. They've got all their discipline. They're professional footballers.
I think he has held his discipline because he's seen one of his own personnel, someone that represents this club, being disrespected, and he's there to back him up, and that's exactly what you want from every player.
Yeah, the trouble is, you're doing it in full view with the TV cameras and the FA, and you're going to get a ban for it. And that,
but they're not to be walked over, though, Mark. You don't just let people walk over your own players and just watch. You have to stand your ground sometimes, and if you get punished,
this isn't a comic, is it, or some work of fiction? This is real life, and we're going to get done for it. So it's fine to talk about it, but it's not going to have any positive. It's not going to have a positive impact, is it?
No, it's not going to have a positive impact. Knight is probably going to take a punishment, but I would expect him to do that every single time.
I think yesterday, what I felt watching it was anybody who's ever played at Imperial in Knoll in local football. Wow, that was you go in, and if there's one player fighting on the pitch, you turn around, and then suddenly there's 22 to 10, and it's all for one for all. And I tell you what, it's not just Knight. It is Viner was throwing punches. A number of McCrory was throwing punches. Cornet was throwing punches. Joe Williams, okay, who cares about Joe Williams because he's officially dead, isn't he? But ultimately, yesterday there were a load of players there. If the FA want to sit down and start extracting that from the melee, it doesn't look good for either side. But the players that were fighting were more our players. So I completely agree with you, Dave, in the fact that all for one for all type mentality, and we fight for this club and we fight for it. But it went beyond that, and I think we're going to get hammered. But fines and all the rest of it, and coaches, I'm not fussed about. But there's key players.
When do you think Knight? When do you think he would get the ban? Do you think it will be before Wednesday?
It might take him a day or two to work through that footage, because I tell you what, if I had that CCTV footage, trying to figure out who did
and
what.
Neil knows all about scrutinising CCTV.
Well,
trust me.
But there's one by our bench, and then there's stuff that carries on by the away team benches on different.
You could have different camera angles, couldn't you?
Yeah,
I mean, because they'll be asking for all that, won't they? The FA.
Yeah, they're not going to rush into it, but I would imagine by the weekend we're going to have, I would say, 3 or 4 players sanctioned.
All right. Well, this is an interesting point here, because the bloody FA, and I'll call him that, the bloody FA, they love having it in for us. And Patrick Marsh, he's put up here, 1 in all in. Yet we have a history of retrospective bans. Remember, Bailey Wright at Fulham got sent off. I was there that game. Totally unfair. Dijou, the alleged spitting incident.
Yeah.
And then 2023, Sykes. No one likes us. We don't care. Well, that's what Millwall sing. We should sing. The FA and ITV don't like us. Well, we don't care either.
Well, the one with Bailey Wright, he was pushed in the
It's a
stomach. He went
shame.
down holding his face, didn't he? That was a problem.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that we didn't show this aggression on the pitch when we were playing Millwall, because when it comes to the dark arts, and we're just generally too nice, we're a bunch of pussies sometimes, right? And it's a very crude measure.
A bit harsh.
Fouls. City 7, Millwall 18, and they got 5 yellow cards for that. So let's have this aggression.
They'll get fined for that, won't they? 5 yellows, you get.
Let's have this aggression on the pitch and not
not off the pitch. No, it's just rank stupidity.
Do you think we aren't aggressive enough in the way that? Wait. Do you think we aren't aggressive enough in the way we play? Do you think we were lacking aggression yesterday? I thought we played. I thought we were aggressive enough. My issue of yesterday was execution, not in how we played. I think it's a bit harsh to say that.
I'm being provocative with that comment.
Well, it worked for me. Cool. Well done.
I mean, I want to say, and I have been a critic of his in the past. I want to say how well George Tanner did yesterday. Yeah. George Tanner, and when people talk about playing Zach Viner in his best position, right? I think Tom from Robin's Nest said on there, if you put Viner on the right-hand side, you leave out Tanner unless you play him as a wing-back, which he isn't, or unless you revert to a back 4. And there's enough people on here saying maybe we should revert to a back 4. And have we got the players to revert to a back 4? And we've got Leicester City coming up, the former Premier League champions from not even 10 years ago. In fact, it'll be 10 years this May. Dave, suspensions apart, how do you think he's going to line up against Leicester City on Wednesday night?
I would imagine it will be McCrory for Sykes and maybe Pring on the left-hand side. But we do have the players to go 4-2-3-1. You put Tanner on the right, Viner and Dickey in the middle, Borges or Pring on the left, Randall and Knight in the middle. You have Anis, Twine, and then you can have Sykes and you on the right. Reece and Armstrong up top. If you want to go 4-2-3-1, we have the players there. Personally, I don't think he will. You might see Armstrong start, you might see Pring start, but I think it will be the same formation with a couple of changes.
Do you think Struber needs to adapt formation a little bit sometimes? Do you think, he's a bit too rigid? I mean, somebody said one match recently, we changed formation 3 times in one game, but is he wedded to a particular way of playing, certainly at home?
I don't think that he's necessarily wedded to a formation, because I have seen us move around and adapt. It's just sometimes I feel like when we go chasing for a game, we kind of just throw all our cards on the deck and just, it's a bit like kind of in keeping with his personality, like his football personality, that is. It's a bit chaotic. I don't really see something that's like, right, I'm going to try and move the pieces. Sometimes it's perfectly reasonable, but occasionally he kind of just goes for it a bit too much. Personally, I wouldn't be against switching to a 4-2-3-1 at times and being more emphasized in that way, because I think some players are there when it's not working. I'd like to see that change.
Yeah,
but no, I don't think he is.
And with a 4, we've got the players now to play a very competent 4, because going from right to left, you can name Tanner, Viner, Dickey, Pring. That's
exactly
pretty decent, isn't it? What do you think Wednesday night against Leicester, Mark? And their form, like everybody, is inconsistent. They've won 3, drawn none, and lost 2 of their last 5 games. Drawing coming. They beat Derby 3-1 at the Stadium of Light, isn't it? Is that Derby's?
No, that's Sunderland.
Pride Park. Pride Park. Do you expect any changes Wednesday night, Mark?
I agree with Dave. I think we could see Pring play on the left and put McCrory on the right instead of Stykes, just his rotation. But you could play with a back 4, but I think the risk and reward of football that Struber's brought to the club, I think he's wedded to a back 3. But we remember systems are fluid within matches. When you're going forward, players will, somebody will come across to cover the 3 or 4. When you lose the ball. Similarly, one of the 3 players may become an auxiliary midfielder. I just don't think that just because you start with a back 3 or 4 midfielders that it's completely rigid throughout the game. It's not. These things are fluid.
Yeah. Okay. Neil, Henry said on here, I'm not an Armstrong fan at all, but yesterday he really won me over. He did with that run. And I said to the person I went to the game with yesterday, I said to him, we need to find him more, because he terrorizes anybody, Armstrong. And Armstrong is a different player to what he was 3 months ago.
I think if I was defending against Armstrong, okay, he's got pace, he's got power. He doesn't quite know how to utilize his pace and power to a certain degree, because when he gets into running alongside players, he doesn't necessarily use his pace and power effectively. In 50-50 duels, he doesn't really sort of do it. But I think he's not right in the head to a certain degree, is he? I think out there, Armstrong. Do you know what I mean? Playing against him, you just be like, what is going on with this guy? He's all action.
He's
all
not
over
in
the
control of what
place.
he's doing.
He's not in control. He's
saying all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. Like Criana Concerto.
Yeah, it's a Morecambe and Wise scenario, isn't it? And when you're on the pitch, you're thinking, our team are thinking, what is he going to do? And I think a defender is probably thinking, I have no idea what he's going to do. When that run, he dribbled sideways and then that way and then went down the wing and then all the rest of it, and he was just running. I think he had no idea what he was going to do.
Speed
when he was just doing it, almost like Andy Weimann, but sort of out of control speed.
But it certainly raised the crowd, didn't it? I mean, it needed something. Jake Cooper just belted it out, but he never looked like he was going to score. But he offered something that just hadn't happened in the game.
I think the thing is
aggression and pace.
With Mehmeti as well, you just you need those sort of players on the pitch where they might 90 minutes of actual nothingness and then you get something from them. And City haven't got that on the bench. They've got a first 11 sort of a squad of 13, 14, and then there's a massive drop off in quality, and we can't look to the bench. I'd love to see our goals from the bench sort of stat over the last, season or so. When you see on Sky Sports and they say goals in the last 10 minutes and goals from the bench and stuff like that, we don't have that. When primarily when we have players come on, they don't lift the team. We seem to drop off. And
everybody was saying yesterday, Neil, it was a stronger bench.
It is a stronger bench, but there's players on there, David, that he's never going to bring on.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's a strong, because if you look at it, Armstrong, Cornick, you, McCrory, Pring, Mayulu, Max, and Roberts. Yeah, you're right. But it's, Meerholz. Was Meerholz on there?
Meerholz was on the bench as well.
Yeah,
But
go on, Dave.
Go on, Dave.
In terms of you, I feel like he is deeply hard done by, because yesterday, for example, he came on and he seemed to be in a rotating position with McCrory, like almost right wing, right back, kind of moving around. He's never in a settled position. He's like the utility guy whose best position never actually seems to get played. And he might be the one answer we have in terms of injecting pace. I just haven't seen that much of it when he comes on. And to me, that's the issue. When you look at that bench, even if you're talking about a flawed player that offers something, when Armstrong came on, he offered that one moment of pace. Who else is doing that, where they're running at a player out wide, looking to get players in the box, just causing that real sense of anticipation?
You look at a couple of players. You look at a couple of players that they had yesterday, and they had pace. Yeah. They had pace in them, no doubt about that. I mean, look, this is the conundrum that we're in, because if you look at our team and we look at January transfer window coming up, it's going to be upon us before we know where it is, right? Somebody answer me this question first, right? Is Semenyo in the Africa Cup of Nations?
I don't think Ghana qualified.
Ghana aren't in it. Okay, fine. And I know Semenyo had a goal disallowed yesterday for whatever, but every time I see him score, I think, well, that makes it closer to him. But
they are in the World Cup in a certain team's group.
Oh, they're playing that, right? Look, come January, right? This is all down now to Tom and Brian Tinian and the Lansdowns, because they control the purses. Because I've said before, I can see 10 million coming in for Semenyo, and a smattering of it will be used to strengthen the squad. But if we look at that bench and say none of them are any good coming on, then any player that we buy in January has got to be better, than the 11 that took the field in their respective positions. And then you zero in onto where we do go out and buy, right? Because, Tanner, Dickey and Viner across the back three, that's okay. I'm happy with that. So to get better than that, you're going to have to spend a lot of money.
Do they need to be better, or do they need to complement and offer something?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. But then when you look at what we've got on the bench, right? I mean, who was the lad that we signed from Oxford that went on to Huddersfield in the end?
Marcus McGuane.
Marcus McGuane. Okay, if Marcus McGuane was here now, he would be taking one of those slots on the bench without question. Right.
Okay, but you also have to bear in mind that Bird and Stokes are on the way back.
Stokes is an unknown quantity, Dave. Stokes is a youngster that
But that's what we want. That's what we want. We want a youngster.
Yeah. What would people say if we went out? What would people say if we went out and bought George Earthy back? Do we really need George Earthy when we've got Knight, Twine, Mehmeti, Stokes?
I think Stokes is a big miss this season. It's a real shame. I was at Fulham when the guy stood on his foot and broke his metatarsal, and he is that sort of player that is big, strong, and he's a proper attacking midfielder that we don't really have. I mean, Bird can do it. Bird came on, obviously scored against Hull at the start of the season, and he gets into those positions. So Bird is a miss, but Bird, he was injured over the summer. He came back for 2 or 3 games, and now he got injured again. He's not going to be around. Got Atkinson to come back in, maybe
Joe
next
Williams.
month. No, Joe's dead.
Stokes is the exact kind of player that we are talking about. Someone who's got that little bit of magic, he's a bit exciting, he's young enough with that enthusiasm. He will be like literally a fresh new signing when he comes back, because it was so disappointing when he got injured. The timing, you could see it on his face, and everybody felt it like, why now? What we need in January is a player that knows where the goal is, has a first for scoring goals, lives by it, and has got a bit of pace that can play multi-position.
Right. So is a first pick is a first pick.
Yeah. You want somebody who's better than
the players. So what we're really saying then is that we did go out and we bought Emil Rees on very high wage, right? And
we did buy him.
And Rees is out of it.
No. I disagree with that. No. It can either complement him. If you're talking someone is going to challenge Rees, if they start, you are happy for him to start. What he needs is competition. I don't think it's realistic to say we're just going to go out and get somebody that's automatically better than Rees. But they need to offer something different to Rees. They need to offer pace and they need to know where the goal is. So you feel like if they start, that you're happy, and if they come on in the last 20, they're going to provide something different. I don't think he was a waste, and I don't think he's a guaranteed non-starter, but we need somebody to challenge Reece.
Okay, and so we had 3 players on the bench yesterday that none of them.
Well, I think Miulu's so far down the pecking order. I mean, I think we're only putting him on the bench to advertise the fact that he's available for loan in January, but he shouldn't be on the bench. He's well, it rhymes with rap.
The sad reality is we've got 3 players on the bench that aren't getting anywhere near the starting 11 or coming off the bench. They're just not, and that's just the reality.
I went to Millwall away last season. Millwall away last season when we won 2-0 with the 2 goal scorers that would have earned me a lot of money in Viner and Cornick. And Cornick came on and he actually did really well. Really well. And he ran it. And you just think, what is the issue with Cornick?
I think there's a trigger clause that maybe there's a set amount of money that has to be paid if he pays a certain number of games.
3 managers now that have seen him.
Well, they all think he's crap. They all think he's crap in training.
But then you don't have him on the bench, do you?
No.
But
don't have him on the bench. What's the point?
Cornick, you've got a seasoned forward, and every time he comes on the pitch, you do see a player there. He got 12 goals for Luton.
Yeah, once.
But it doesn't matter.
No,
he got 12 goals. He's a seasoned professional, and he offers something on the pitch. Yeah, we would never bring him on. Never bring him on.
So why name him?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know what the issue is with Cornick.
Why put Cornick on the bench and relegate Ollie Thomas, who's been making the bench? Why put Cornick on the bench?
I mean, he came on against Southampton, scored against Southampton, albeit a couple of years ago. Came on against Millwall, scored against Millwall. He does pick up 1 or 2 goals, but we've never played him over a consistent period of time. And they would never bring him on in that situation. And I get the Armstrong thing. I do get the Armstrong thing. But for me, Reece, he hasn't got that explosive element to his game that he had the first 3 or 4 games. I think he's playing with an injury at the moment. Whether it's a calf, Achilles, whatever. I think we're managing a situation because he's been coming off at 60 minutes, hasn't he? 60, 65 minutes. Yesterday was pretty much probably his first 90 for a very long time in relation to it. But Reece isn't the player that he was at the start of the season, but he's still playing.
But he shouldn't be.
But goals from forwards, David, going back to your point about transfers, for me, strikers. You've got these players and creative, and they're coming back to Stokes, to Twines, the Mametis, all the rest of it. Yeah, and I think the midfield, once we get,
Dave, do you think? Let's not talk about players coming in. People were shocked this week when Mark Sykes said in public he's not talking about a new contract, and arguably you could say that Sykes, Viner, and Mehmeti, who all 3 of them played well. Mehmeti not so yesterday, but they're all key players to the match day 18 or 20, whatever it is. But ignoring players coming in, do you think there will be departures in January? Do you think somebody could come in with a cheeky bid for Anis Mehmeti? And by clubs coming in, you look at top championship clubs, but we're sort of one of those, but Millwall wouldn't come in from Mehmeti. But could you see another club, maybe abroad, coming in from Mehmeti and thinking, oh, let's get him in now. We can have him for free in the summer, but we'll put a cheeky bid in for £1 million to Bristol City, and would we sell? And Viner, could you see? So the question is, Dave, sorry, long-winded as usual from me. Do you see anybody going out the door that we might go crumbs? That's a bit of a shock.
Well, first of all, if we do poorly in December, it makes the club's decision a bit easier in January in terms of looking to sell. But imagine you're one of those players, you have the opportunity to go abroad. There are certain clubs that maybe, an Olympiacos, for example, play in Champions League, near the top of their league, an opportunity at the very minimum to play in Europe. If you get to January, all of a sudden, you've got players out of contract that can literally go abroad if they so wish. Could you see Anis signing a pre-contract deal and the club get nothing? I could. Viner, depending on how much he wants to spread his wings, he could easily go. The fact that Sykes isn't getting that contract offer is slightly ridiculous. He should have had something offered, but is he going to be offered enough money to stay? maybe the club don't want to offer it because they know they can't offer what they need to. Looking ahead after this season, I'm very worried because it's quite easy to see us starting next season without Anis, without Viner, without Sykes, without even Jason Knight, because we're going to have the same questions with him in summer. This season, I truly believe promotion is so important. Otherwise, next season, we're going to be starting from scratch again. And there's no guarantee that we're going to get any money for these core key players, with the exception of Knight. And if a bid comes in for Knight in January or in the summer, we might well have to accept. Otherwise, we're going to have to be replacing too many players.
I think we will. Because the other thing that's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks, or certainly the next 8 weeks, the accounts for June 25 are coming out. They're going to show £18 million to £20 million loss. That's my prediction. And the year coming up now that we're in to June 26, the losses are going to be the same. So we're really down to the benevolence of the Lansdowne family or not, and obviously being tied by financial fair play. Yeah.
Just to say in terms of what Sykes did in mentioning that, that's very, from his side, very well controlled of the narrative, because Tinian was very quick at the forum to say that Anis and Viner have been offered contracts. Well, Sykes is basically gone, well, I haven't. This allows him to walk away with his head held high. If he signs a pre-contract.
And he's an Irish international, for goodness sake. Mark, what's your take on all this? You've been silently listening to me ranting and Dave talking.
I think Sykes is a versatile player, and I like to see him stay. I can't see it's a seller's market unless there's a bit of $3 million from Mehmeti. We're not going to let him go, depending on our position in January. But I think Mehmeti's contract will get run down. I think Zach Viner's contract will get run down. But if they stay in England, they're not going to play any higher than the Championship, because they're not good enough to play in the Premier League. Maybe they go to a foreign club. Who's somebody said Tommy Robbins Nest, who's Europa League standard, maybe for next season, would seem like an attractive proposition, but it's a seller's market. But even then, I mean, we're talking about January. You're looking further ahead, David, at our financial prospects. We'd have to sell a player for 20 million every season just to make up the shortfall.
I disagree slightly with that, Mark, because I think Lansdowne's largesse, right, is that he I think is prepared to underwrite £10 million a year. That's a little chitty in petty cash. £10 million a year, maybe 15, right? And then so we don't have to sell that level of player every year. We don't have to make 20 million of player sales, because he knows that the cost base is all wrong, because I'm sure we're covering certain costs to do with Bristol Sport and stuff like that.
But when you consider a lot of the philosophy is about buying low, selling high. There's a bit of punt theory in there. The fact that Anis, the fact that Viner, and even Sykes, that is millions of pounds walking out the door for free that you do not easily replace, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, and that's what Tom just said. Anis, on current form as an under contract player, he's worth between 5 and 7 million. So Zach, I agree with that, Tom.
They're out of contract in the summer.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They were in contract based on
if somebody offered that, if someone offered 5 million, you'd snap their hand off.
Yeah,
no,
I think it's amortization.
But they're going to walk for nothing. And
there's no amortization on Zach Viner because he's a youth academy in relation to it. So there's no transfer fee involved in him. And then Anis was obviously only 1 million in relation to it, which plays a good part of why you wouldn't do it. But I think with it next season, you've got players like McCrory. McCrory's out of contract in the summer, but he's got an option year. Do you bother going with the option year, or do you look to recruit on McCrory? Got Max O'Leary coming back out of contract. Do you offer Max? Well, for me, what this season has shown is an exceptional keeper makes a huge difference to the team, and that we've probably been. Max is a decent enough Championship keeper, but that leap up between actually having a very, very good keeper, what a difference it makes to the team. Do you offer Max O'Leary a new contract? Then you go into, well, Hayden Roberts is gone, the Cornicks have gone, all the rest of it. Those are easy decisions. Sam Bell, those are easy decisions. But again, then you look at it, Mehmeti's not going to sign a new contract. Mehmeti's agent at the moment is going to be probably touting 25, 30 grand a week. Easy. Yeah. Because when they're free contracts, you build in a transfer fee into the thing. So when Wrexham offered 2 million for Zach, that is, you just turn that transfer fee into another signing on bonus or whatever like that in relation. And you would have to come together now with Zach. I know that we're talking to Zach, and I know we're trying to saying you can be the future of this club. You stay with this club, pulling on the heartstrings and all the rest of it. But the financials don't lie, and the financials are that with Mehmeti and with Viner, we would have to make them probably the highest paid players in the history of this football club.
Well,
I would say
c'est la vie. C'est la vie.
No, but even
c'est la vie.
You'll only get them to sign as well if you give them a low buyout.
Yeah, so this is Viner's last payday.
No, but do you offer the biggest deal in the club's history to a 30?
But how much is it going to?
To a 30?
Yeah, but you're not. But do you go out and do you gamble then? Let him go, and how do you replace how do you replace a £5 million under contract player? And somebody said, I would say we get 5 million for Mehmeti. If we'd have given Mehmeti a 3-year contract 18 months ago, halfway through his initial contract, when he wasn't doing fabulously, right, and then his value now would be, and that's what Tom was alluding to, if Mehmeti had 2 years to run, 18 months to run on his contract, not 6 months, there's value there. Would we get 5 million? We might. Yeah, and that's the situation, picking up on what Dave said, is going to happen with Jason Knight, because Jason Knight's only got 18 months on. Is somebody going to come in for Jason Knight in Jan, or come June, we're all going to be saying, well, Jason Knight's going to walk for nothing.
I think the thing with Jason Knight is, let's see if the Republic of Ireland get into the World Cup, and now it causes its own sort of issues, isn't it? If he's at the World Cup and trying to get place in World Cup. But I think with Mehmeti, what you've got to realise is that everybody's saying, why, 18 months ago, he was a fringe player, wasn't he? Pearson was looking to send him out on loan, and Manning said, I was going to take him at Oxford. He was going to be dropping down a division. So the time when we were saying we should have been negotiating with Mehmeti was when he was not part of the team.
Well, when he's not playing very well, which is a sort of difficult situation.
Do you renegotiate when somebody's not playing very well?
It's difficult, so it's all about being savvy. All right, guys, look, we've had a good natter today, as always. We'll be doing the Leicester game 9:00 on Thursday, and then Coventry review this time next week. 2 really tough games. As I said, let's take each game at a time. I'll ask you first, Dave. Outcome on Wednesday. What's your prediction?
I think we'll win 2-0.
Okay, Mark, Wednesday.
I'm very confident.
1-1 draw.
Neil?
Go on, I'm going to say we're going to win. I'm going to say 2-1. There we go. I never have us to win.
I feel like that brawl at the end is going to galvanise, and that's going to take an energy into the. It's
going to be a farewell song for a number of players before they go on a bit of leave over Christmas.
This is almost bad as the incident which ended up. What was it? Was it Steve Brooker and Dave Clarkson and Bradley Orr throwing wheelie bins?
Dave Partridge. Yeah.
Dave Partridge throwing wheelie bins in St Stephen's Street one year. Yeah, I think somebody went.
That was 2000. That was 2005.
Yeah. Dave Partridge.
Yeah.
Dave Partridge, a Partridge fan.
There was no way after that brawl that a number of our players are on bans.
Well, there you go. Let's wait and see. My prediction on Wednesday, I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think we'll lose at Coventry on Saturday. I didn't ask you guys that one, but there you go. I've not mentioned extrapolate for those of you hoping to catch that on bingo.
Points per game.
And Dave didn't call me Mr. P for the first time, which he said he was going to do. So well done, Dave. Mark, still got those shoes there behind you. Got rid of your Movember, and you raised in excess of £500 for Prostate Cancer UK. Well done on that. Everybody who's watched it live, hope you've enjoyed it. If you're listening during the week, hope you enjoyed that too. In the meantime, we'll be back on Thursday morning with a review of the Leicester City home game. All the best, everybody. Have a good early part of the week.